DJ Charlie Fatt's here. The scourge of the airwaves. Well, not the scourge of the airwaves. Someone everyone's enjoying on the airwaves. How are you, Charlie?
Oh, I'm well, thanks, Dan. I feel like this is like a performance appraisal with my boss because you're kind of my boss on Slice Radio.
Yeah, well, it's been going really well. No feedback, really. No negative feedback, but everyone's been enjoying the show. Have you changed your attack from episode 1 to 13?
Yeah, I think so. The initial couple of episodes, I literally was going through my CD racks because I've got a wall of CDs that haven't been touched for a long time. So this has been a really good opportunity to rediscover some albums that I completely forgot about and some gems that I just didn't know that I owned. But the first couple of episodes, I was literally starting at the top and working my way down one row at a time, pulling out things that I thought would be fun. But the last couple of episodes, I've started to go into more themed type of shows. So I've done a live episode, a live song show. So I'm going through all my live albums. And my most recent one was sort of a now and then episode because I was keen to pull out some tracks from artists that I still like, that are still active. Some of them are more like solo artists now than in bands, but pulled out some more recent tracks, and it's really nice to hear what some of my favorite artists from the 90s are up to, still making great music.
What was a couple of highlights? I know I want to say the young lady from the clouds, but she's not a young lady anymore.
Jodie Phillips, yeah. I've seen her a few times. I think most recently, where did I see her play? I think it was one of these retro bills at the Factory Theatre. No, it was the Enmore. And the two ladies from the Clouds came back supporting Jesus Jones and then the Wonder Stuff. And I kind of forgotten how good their melodies were. And then a couple of years ago now, I went to somewhere in Oxford Street and saw a reunited Clouds play, and Jodie Phillips supported herself. So that was great. That was in the wonderful days of when I was in a knee brace, if you might remember. And
sure.
I got VIP status in the club because of my inability to bend my knee. So I got a good seat for that show. But yeah, it's good to see that she's got some new music coming out and still very active, and has a new album coming out sometime later this year or early next year. But yeah, I'm a big Clouds fan from way back.
Much respected back in the day. Most of the bands that you feature were. Some were more flash in the panty. The Sharp, just the 3/4 singles rather. I'll take that again. Just the 3/4 singles from the Sharp.
Two albums in total, and I have them both. I've actually, out of doing the show, I discovered that they'd released an EP where they'd covered some pretty cool sort of 80s tracks like Love Cats. And I did find a copy. It was sort of one of their lesser singles, and it had all these bonus tracks. I have managed to find it. I went on eBay and found it on cassette. So as soon as I can convert this Cass single, I'll have some interesting cover versions by the Sharp. But I saw them way back at the Collector Tavern back when it wasn't a pokey den. And they were a pretty cool band, especially the bass player sort of climbing all over the instrument. And they were pretty hot at the time, but only for a very short period, maybe 2 or 3 years. And then that was it. They were gone.
Well, I think the third year would be stretching it a lot. But that's just my memory.
2 years. 2 years, and they were gone. And one of them apparently was a writer for Neighbours before joining the Sharp. So I don't know what he's doing now, but he went from writing for Neighbours to playing in the Sharp.
They didn't appear young. They weren't lads.
They like their black skivvies.
Yeah, skivvies are back.
That's
Do you remember that?
Yes, Late Show. I've still got friends that quote the Late Show as if they're fresh jokes, but I'm afraid they're not anymore. I have gone back and watched. Did you watch any of that stuff back lately?
No, I certainly remember 40% of it being acceptable.
Oh, look, it was funny. I just don't think it's aging particularly well anymore.
No. But anyway, look, hey, that was the 90s. And, the Sharp retired themselves before they, before Bogans could stampede the stage and kill them on stage. I mean, but anyway, look, we've got to move on from the Sharp. And we've got to talk about young Charlie in the 90s. You're a bit younger than I. And so 90s was a real halcyon period for me. So you must have been sort of sneaking into gigs as young as 14, 15 by my calculations.
I don't think so. I was a good Charlie. My first gig I went to was seeing Rat Cat at Patrick's, which was a nightclub, a how you say shit nightclub at Pennant Hills, and I went with a friend who assured me that despite being under 18, like my ID, I was legit a couple of days into 18, but he was well under, and he assured me that he would get in, and we got to the door, I got in, he obviously didn't, and being a good friend, I went in and watched the whole gig on my own.
Yeah, sure.
It was a good gig though, and it started a love for Rat Cat, really. But yeah, I was in. Look, I used to hang out at a Castle Record Bar at Castle Towers, and I used to haunt a lot of record stores. You'd often find me wandering around the original Waterfront and Red Eye stores, buying CDs. I certainly wasn't. Vinyl for me is a new love. I was definitely buying every CD I could find, going to gigs, and back in the 90s when you could see that tickets went on sale for the big day out, and you could and ah about whether you were going to buy one. And you could buy a couple of weeks later, and it would be no problem, and you just go, as opposed to the later days of Big Day Out where, it was sold out within hours. But I think by the late 90s, I'd moved to Bathurst, and Stop and Rock, the store, the former record store there, became my haunt. And they even had the old IMAX, the ones with the different coloured bums. And I'd go there to check my email because I didn't own a computer and I didn't have the internet, so I used to buy my CDs from there and check my email. And they even ordered me lots of stuff in, because at the time you couldn't just go on the internet and buy stuff from Amazon. But look, I remember the 90s as being a very it was when I was growing up, so it's the music that I like best. That was when I was listening to Triple J. So I was, the right age for Triple J. And that's what I listened to when I studied and in the car. And, I can't stand a second of that now. I don't listen to any radio. But at the time, I was very much into Triple J and everything they played. So, what were you doing in the 90s?
Playing in bands. Pardon me. I've got a frog in my throat. Playing in bands a lot of the time. And we'd keep a very good check on the Triple J type charts. How would we do that? There wasn't really an indie chart per se, even though if there was, I didn't have access to it. But
was the alternative chart on the back side? You go to the record store and there was an ARIA printout that you could get. It was in red print.
That was it.
Did they have alternative on the other side?
That was it exactly, because I can certainly remember slinking in there just to get one of those. And but it wasn't as accurate as just listening to half a day's worth of Triple J, because the songs that continued to appear, they were the ones that you wanted to be covering. But of course, bringing Powderfinger and Spiderbait to the country people, it wasn't always an easy blend. So you had to pick and choose your venues to where you were going to play Buy Me a Pony or Unleash Some Bernard Fanning.
Did you have to finish every gig with a gambler? I seem to recall when I first hit Bathurst being quite surprised that if anyone put that song on the jukebox, everybody except me sang along.
Well, we used to do the gambler for a while, but we moved away from it when we had enough rocking songs to just rock all night.
I was in a band in the 90s too. We were a three-piece, probably inspired by, not by the Sharp, but just just fuzzy guitar pop rock.
Yeah.
And I was the drummer that insisted on singing. So I remember spending a lot of money on a headset mic so I could play the drums and sing at the same time. But it's hard to be the front man when you're stuck behind a whole bunch of cymbals and drums.
Yeah, look, only the Eagles really pulled it off, and maybe the band, old bands.
Well, they were talented too, and that probably made a difference.
That did make a difference. How unprofessional! My alarm going off there. So look, I'm looking at a website of all the hottest 100s, and I just thought I might get some like brief, memories. It all kicked off in 1990, but not really. That's the last year in 1980, in the 1980s. But anyway, let's have a look at how that one. What do you think was number one in 1990, Charlie?
1990.
It's a ways back.
Yeah, it's a year before Nirvana or two, isn't it?
Yeah, have a wild guess. Something that the band that kicked off thousands and thousands of other bands and was very dark.
Very dark.
Very dark indeed.
Okay. The Cure. Is it The Cure?
Yeah. No, it was Joy Division. Love will tear us apart.
Well, that's a retro. Was that when Triple J allowed old songs into So you're allowed to vote for anything that you wanted?
Anything you liked, pretty much. And also,
well, I probably would have been voting for Barry Manilow just for shits and giggles at that time.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, other things in the top 10 were Rock Lobster, B-52s, The Smiths, This Charming Man, the actually Uncertain Smile. Interesting things. Sinead O'Connor, Troy. It's one you wouldn't think. That was just outside the top 10.
So soon after that, they would have made it new music only, yeah?
Let's go to 1993 when things were getting more serious.
Okay, 93.
The transmitters were starting to open up right across Australia. You'll recall around then was the big push for Triple J to be Australia-wide.
So who was Maynard on the Breakfast Show in that early I think he wasn't he?
He was just about there. Maynard, the world's top broadcaster.
Richard Kingsmill, Andy Glitterer had Hard Coffee kicked off by then. That was Helen Razor and
Mikey Robbins.
Yeah, or was it Dano from Jono and Dano?
Jono and Dano. Well, they weren't they very early. Look, anyway. Look, we don't want to mess all this up. Who do you think was number one on
in 93? It would surely be Smells Like Teen Spirit.
You'd think, wouldn't it? But it was Dennis Leary with A-Hole.
Oh, it was. Of course. Of course. So that was when the novelty song made the top. I don't think that would happen again.
No. And who do you think was number two? I'll give it 5 lovable lads from Cambridge, UK. Not so lovable.
Oasis, surely. Wonderwall, yeah?
No, they're more Manchester.
Oh, okay.
Cambridge. Think Southerners.
Blur from London, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But
what band are we talking about here?
Radiohead. Creep.
Oh, of course.
Could only make it to number 2.
Yeah. Wow. Beaten off by like a novelty comedy song, really.
Other things in the top 10 were the Cranberries' Linger, which is a good song. Blind Melon, No Rain, which is another good song. The Breeders with Cannonball. It's all good.
Oh, wow. This is a great time, isn't it?
Good year, really good year. Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of. Here's an outsider, U2 and Lemon. When they
had a little bit of a bit of edge. I think around that time I would have gone to their was it called the Lemon Tour? No.
Pop Mart,
Zoo TV. I went to their Zoo TV show at the Sydney Football Stadium. I think I bought tickets late, and so therefore we were on the grounds of the on the football field you obviously are aware that I am not a professional basketball player due to my height, just because of my height. And I didn't see a single thing for that whole show. I think it was Big Audio Dynamite. U2, I think, did they bring out the guitar player? But did BB King tour with them that time? I'm not sure. Maybe that was the tour before. Anyway, I paid a lot of money to be there. I don't know if I was facing the stage. Can't tell. Surrounded by a bunch of tall people in the general admission area. So an overall disappointing U2 experience for that tour. But I did see them at the Entertainment Centre for Rattle and Hum, and I can't imagine that they were playing venues that small much after that sort of 89, 90 period when that tour would have happened.
Well, let's skip forward a couple of years to I'm right in the throngs of Triple J is God at this stage in 1996.
Okay, I probably would have agreed with
number one. It's an Aussie band. Think Victoria.
Think Victoria. 96. Three-piece. So it's got to be Spiderbait, or it's got to be. It's not. No, you said Victoria. So it's not. It's okay. Spiderbait. I was going to say, is it Regurgitator? Because three-piece. You know.
Yeah, sure. They are a three-piece. You're right about that. And then Tool Stinkfist. It must have been tightly contested at the end. Because
what song was it from Spiderbait?
Buy Me a Pony.
Ah, that's right. Because did you know that it's compulsory for all Hollywood movies now to include Spiderbait's Black Betty in the soundtrack? It's compulsory.
For
absolutely
Cram
compulsory.
And Janice and the other guy's name.
And whoever wrote the song, which wasn't them.
No, not them, no. But then this is an interesting year. Ben Folds 5, Underground, fantastic song.
I have played that. I have played that on the show.
Butthole Surfers, Pepper, another good song. Bush, Glycerine, less good.
Yeah.
Powderfinger, Pick You Up, perfectly good. Weezer with El Scorcho. And rounding out the top 10 is Baby Bird with You're Gorgeous.
I definitely didn't vote for that one.
Yeah.
How did we vote? Do you remember how we voted in those days? Was it writing it on the back of an envelope and sending it into the ABC post office box, or did we have phone voting and you had to? Did you have to dial in the numbers, like literally put the code in for the song? Because there wouldn't have been any way for you to add anything to the list, right? Triple J must have produced the list, and then you got on the phone. I don't know. The original one would have been done via mail, I assume, when you could vote for anything you liked. But somewhere they went from post to telephone to just doing it on the internet now.
Yeah, I think they had a crossover period there where they had a couple of different medias going from memory. Then if we skip forward another couple of years to the all-time, they had an all-time in 1998 as well as in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, they do these little cash grab ones every now and again, and why not? Who do you think was number one in the all-time of 98? A band you've mentioned before.
I think that's where we go, either Wonderwall or Nirvana. I'm going to go with Nirvana.
That's good. That was a good pick. Smells like Teen Spirit. Sounds like Teen Spirit is the Charlie Fatt presentation going out every week on Slice Radio at 11 a.m. every day, and also catch up with the podcast. Then number 2, Hunters and Collectors, Throw Your Arms Around Me, well deserved.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's all good, obviously, for an all time. Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody coming in at 8. I mean, it's a little low.
I don't. What a great song. Well, I would like to put together. I should do a show. It probably won't sit in my theme, but I should do a special show of songs that I think that are great, but I never need to hear again for the rest of my life. And I think Bohemian Rhapsody would be number 1, and I think Crowded House and Weather With You would be number 2. Songs that I think are well written, beautifully sung, beautifully performed, but I have no interest in hearing ever again.
This is how Triple J the kids were. David Bowie's Heroes came in at 100.
Only 100.
Yeah, but Jebediah's Jerks of Attention was 82. So skewed, a little bit skewed there. But
I can't imagine that history will.
It's fun to look back.
That one up.
Well, we're having fun here. How about 2000, finishing the 90s? We know if we can count numbers properly.
Right. What was I doing in 2000? I certainly wasn't doing a weekly internet show. 2000. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It would be my second year of being out of uni and working, and I would have been living in Bathurst. So my musical diet would have been B-Rock, which have a very limited sort of array of music, and Triple J. So they would have been my two influences, B-Rock and Triple J.
Well, what do you think was number one in 2000? It's an Aussie band, one of the top 5 or 10 Aussie bands of the 90s.
Yeah. I think it would be Powderfinger, surely.
That's right. Spot on.
Yes.
My happiness. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Then,
did you catch their? Did you catch Powderfinger's sort of reunion gig in the middle of the pandemic last year?
No. Oh, yeah. I saw a bit of it for sure.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice gig. I look, I'm back to buying vinyl, so the time machine is on, and for some reason, vinyl is what I need to buy now. Not CDs, not downloads. Forget streaming. It's got to be on vinyl. So I did pick up the new Powderfinger vinyl of that concert, and I think they're only going to make so many copies. Somehow I managed to get number 15. So I reckon that's a nice low number in a limited edition, and that'll probably be what I might buy my next house with, that record.
Absolutely. It's going to be worth a mozza. Number 2 was Beautiful Day from U2. Great song. That's probably got to be one of U2's last appearances on any sort of Triple J.
Do they have any credibility anymore? What do you think? Are they a credible band? I'm just not into them.
I think they are, because they put out an album every few years. They spend absolute fortunes producing it.
Sure.
And then it sort of gets a lukewarm reaction. But the last one got a really big reaction, and people thought it was, their best album for a long time. But I would argue that they're better off putting out just putting out an album every 2 years, and don't just do your best, guys, because it's a big ramp up every 4 or 5.
I wonder what's an acceptable sales for them, because clearly they're not topping charts, and clearly they're not moving units, whatever those units happen to be nowadays. For these legacy artists like U2 and Madonna, I just think what is acceptable? Like, obviously Madonna's new album, it causes a buzz the first week it comes out, and then except for the diehard fans, everyone else goes away, doesn't care anymore. And so what sort of sales are these people attracting nowadays? Because I can't imagine there are many people buying a new Madonna album or a new U2 album nowadays. I'm not.
Yeah, well, I think it's just for the hardcore fans. And there'll be a lot of extra promo stuff like, headbands, stockings, all sorts of things that people will be interested in. That'll be branded in. You get your branding right, I suppose. But I think U2 want to be relevant, but the way to be relevant would be to just sit with the other rock bands, pump out an album every couple of years, the way rock bands are meant to do, or go away entirely. But,
go away, come back for a greatest hits tour. That's the thing to do, I think.
Yeah, well, they can. They've got a lot of hits. So what do you think rounded out the top 100, hottest 100 in 2000 for Triple J?
As in the bottom song?
Yeah, the number 100. It's an American band, very, very large, massive in the 90s, and even quite big in the early 2000s.
Ooh, that's very broad.
It's another 3-piece.
Oh, another 3-piece from America?
Yeah. Color,
I'm probably
color in the name. That's made it easy.
Oh,
Hopefully, go through your main colors.
Is it that Ocean something blue? Is that the name of the band?
Ocean Color Scene.
Ocean Color Scene. That's not right, is it? I don't know.
You might have this type of day and a color.
Oh,
Green Day.
oh, right. Of course.
Never
of
mind.
course.
And Warning, certainly, I think that's about right, don't you? Number 100, Green Day Warning.
I think they were a little they were non-conformists at that time. Now they're mainstream, aren't they? But at the time, they were punk. Now they only do stadium shows.
Well,
they don't do any shows right now.
I think they're a legacy act now, which is
fine.
Oh,
I've got their new albums, and I religiously buy their new material. This is after I criticize U2 and Madonna for not selling albums. I still buy new Green Day albums. I've got the most recent 2 or 3, and they're consistently disappointing.
Yeah. He's probably written all the good songs he's ever going to write, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Just shout out a few Aussie band names and get your reaction. The Super Jesus.
I love the Super Jesus. Just bought Sumo on vinyl. I don't think it ever came out on vinyl originally. It was a CD only sort of thing, or a cassette and CD thing only. And yeah, Sarah McLeod, as you know, was in Orange only recently, and I'd kind of forgotten how much I love their music. So yeah, pretty big Super Jesus fan. And I even found in my collection, putting the show together this week, I found a solo album from her that I'd forgotten that I owned called, I think it's called Beauty is a Tiger or something like that. That's one of her solo releases, produced by the guy from The Living End. So it's kind of got that driving beat, a rockabilly sound. I think it came out in the 2000s, so it doesn't quite meet the criteria for sounds like Teen Spirit. But if I do another now and then episode, or a then and a little bit closer to now, I'll dig that one out and dust it off.
Okay, I want to shout out a few others. George the band.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan, but I do own the CD, and yeah, I might reappraise that one and pop a song in the in one of my shows. What was the name? Was it Genevieve Maynard was the lead singer? Who was the lead singer of George?
Not Genevieve Maynard.
Okay.
Can't think of a name. God, go back 15 years and I would have given it to you. Just like that.
Was it the was it Noonan, the one that's now sort of a
Katie
jazz singer?
Noonan.
Yeah, was that right?
Katie Noonan and the brother Noonan. Can't think of his name.
Oh, well, there you go. My memory. I'm not as demented as I thought that I was.
Be careful. This is my wife's favourite band, Skulker. What did you think of them?
I don't own any Skulker, so I know your lovely wife listens to the show, so I will pull something out from that group for the next episode. How about that?
Here is a really good band that I liked almost all of their songs. Always the Fauves.
Oh yes. I've got some early stuff of theirs from sort of indie compilations. Very solid group. I'm going to dig out some of that too. It's there in the rack. It's ready to be played again.
Yeah, and sort of other thing. Just shout out a few other names: Motor Race, Skunk Hour.
Oh, Skunk Hour.
Not a band?
Do I own a Skunk Hour album?
It's funky.
Yeah, it is funky. I did go through a bit of I did go through a short phase there for that sort of music, listening to Swoop and Skunk Hour and Directions of Groove, if you remember them. Yeah, it's all sitting there in the rack. I better play some of that too.
Well, look, hey, we don't want to sway you either way. We're just reminiscing down down a 90s memory lane, which is arguably more dangerous than walking down a lane even these days, I'd say. Friends of Rom, also great. Tex Perkins, Grinspoon, Groove Terminator. Oh, my goodness. There's so many good bands back then. There's so many good artists now, not as many bands.
No, I used to be super into a band called Nancy Vandal. Do you remember Nancy Vandal?
Yes.
And Fox, is, I think they've come back a few times. He's the lead singer and guitarist, great artist, great cartoon artist. And I think he lives in Bathurst now because I got him to do some animations for some shows that I've done in the past. But fantastic artist. And I used to love, in fact, I've got the pile here of CDs for the show that I'm putting together, my next show. And for my little novelty act, this is Nancy Vandal. You can't find this in shops because who sells CDs? This is Nancy Vandal, Slippery When Crap, and it's a little piss take 80s sort of rock hair ballads song. So it's got Nancy Vandal doing Final Countdown, You Give Love a Bad Name, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Kickstart My Heart, We're Not Going to Take It, and Unskinny Bop. And it's not a proper release. The cover is photocopied and stuck in a case. So this is nice. A very rare item. Fox there. This is the original lineup of Nancy Vandal. Of course, the lead singer of Friends of Rom stood in as the bass player for Nancy Vandal for a short period of time. I certainly remember going to that gig. Yeah, but yeah, big fan of that sort of tongue-in-cheek, I don't know, heavy metal, hair metal sort of band. Nancy Vandal, what a great band.
Never seen them, but often admired them, and I've seen Friends of Rom a few times. And Coldplay also gets its probably its last run on Triple J, on a Triple J list with Shiver. I do not know that song.
No, neither do I. Again, they put out albums all the time, and I just don't know who's buying them anymore. I did go to a gig. Remember gigs? I went to a gig at one of the big stadiums for Coldplay, and I kind of went with a friend, not because I was into Coldplay, but because there were tickets, and I just thought we'd go. And it was kind of cool. It was certainly built on spectacle. They gave everyone those wristbands that had little flashing lights in them, and then they somehow, through a radio transmitter, they controlled what your wristband did in the gig. So, they literally lit up the stadium in a coordinated fashion by controlling these horrible for the environment thing. Of all bands, Coldplay give you a wristband that at the end of the gig, you just chuck in the bin because it's never going to work again. But quite a spectacular show. Would I go again? No.
No, not for you. You've had enough. You've had a gutful.
I'll go to Nancy Vandal instead.
Absolutely. I think I probably would too, being that I've not seen either of them. But, I'd choose Nancy. That's going to be a fun time. Or I'd go and see the Porkers again.
So I'm playing the Porkers. How do you know this? I'm playing the Porkers in the new show. This is. I thought this album would be worth something because I've never seen it in shops. But this is all. Can you see that? All Our Loving, and it's a it was released via TV1, which was a channel that used to be on Foxtel Austar, and this was released to support Young Talent Time being played on the Retro channel, and this has got 11 versions of All My Loving, the same song over and over and over again by different bands. And so how's this? Some of them you might have heard of. Charlie Chan, Muzzy Pep, Nitocris, Test Eagles, The Porkers, Nancy Vandal, Honey Fix, Resin Dogs, Abel El Toro, Bella, Deer Hunters, and Blue Bottle Kiss, all doing their version of exactly the same song from Young Talent Time. I paid $30.95 from the Castle Towers record bar for this, And you would think that this is worth more nowadays, wouldn't you? You would think. It's not.
I bet not so much. Yeah.
But I am playing the Porkers track off this week. Can you guess which song it is, though? It's All My Loving.
Yeah, I thought it was probably All My. Well, we've got to let Charlie go and compile his show, and we'll thank him very much for his time. We'll thank him very much for the show. Is there any?
Thank you. Thank you to Brashers for supporting my show.
Yeah. And
not only
by the Annandale.
The Annandale. Well, the drinks are better at Annandale, but the cassettes are better at Brashers. So big shout out to my show sponsor, Brashers. Not only are they a fine supporter of my show and Slice Radio, but they've also been out of business since 1998. So I think that's a major achievement.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Charlie.